Welcome to the Monster Mindset, guys. Here today with Kris Gethin. Kris is a biohacking, bodybuilding, beast machine author, business owner. Crazy, knows his way around your body and what you can do to help yourself and take care of yourself and change your life. So welcome, Kris. Really glad to have you here. Can you just tell me just a little bit about yourself and about those businesses and just kind of give us an overview real quick?
Yeah, for sure. So the weird accent comes from Wales here. I'm based in Boise, Idaho now. I run several businesses. I've got a supplement company called Kaged Supplements. And it's, they're constantly within the top 5 or 10 on platforms such as bodybuilding.com, Vitamin Shop, GNC, etc. It's sold worldwide. I also have a gym franchise that's based out of India that's quite successful. We've got about 10 gyms over there called Kris Gethin Gyms. And I also have quite a successful online training program and business that I have. So I train people all around the world, usually to transform, help them take off weight, regain their health, or could even be performance. I've got professional athletes, I have celebrities on board. So a jack of all trades, just to keep me distracted.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say jack of all trades because those things that you're working in are all centered around that expertise in taking care of yourself and your body and your bio age, all those things. So I'm excited to learn more from you.
Let's hit it.
All right. Welcome to the podcast, Monsters. I'm your host, Doug Bartlett. If you have a mind for business or you want to grow, we are the podcast for you. I just saw a buddy of mine, Shane Hall.
Oh yeah,
I was
on
podcast with him and Kris.
I was on his podcast yesterday.
Yeah, and so I played soccer with Chris Jones, indoor soccer for several years, and then haven't in the last couple of years, and I got to get back into it. In fact, I'm planning on joining next session. But how'd that go?
Yeah, really, really good. They're good people.
Yeah,
it was a fun time.
Yeah. What I'm just curious. What were you guys talking about? NFTs or urban media or just
no? They were just
picking your brain and
just digging into my life, I guess, from a business perspective and how I got into the industry. And I guess if I think back at it, is we spoke about how my lifestyle has a transcendence effect on my business. Because I don't come from an educated background. I hated school.
Yeah.
But I found when I stumbled across by accident fitness through injuries. I had a lot of injuries when I was younger, racing, doing different extreme sports. And then I was able to retain the content because I actually found something that I enjoyed learning about. Whereas in school, it was kind of forced upon you and you're made to think that you're dumb, you're stupid because you can't pick it up.
Right.
I just didn't want to be at school.
Right.
I just didn't want to be there. I'm not saying that's for everybody. So kind of how, that had a transcendence effect and, picking up something that I had the retention to hold. And then I'd say, because I am, every one of my school report cards said Kris is easily distracted. And you're told that's a negative connotation, but now I use that to my advantage where I work on several businesses. If I'm reading books, I have to read 4 or 5 at a time. Mm-hmm. So I get bored with one really quick, so I pick up that one.
Right.
So, but we're not generally taught that when we're younger.
No. I tend to be a little bit all over the place myself.
Yeah.
Working on multiple businesses. I'm in the NFT space. I'm getting ready to start this biohacking-ish business, but I'm trying to learn about it.
Nice.
And so
I'd love to learn more about the biohacking business because we myself and my business partner just opened a clinic in London.
Okay.
All on biohacking. Have you been to the Restore Hyper Wellness clinics here?
No, but I have an appointment actually this afternoon at one that's literally 2 blocks from here that does hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's Restore or there's another one that's an Eagle. I was going to go consult with both of them just to see what they're all about and probably start going down the road.
Is it Active Health and Wellness?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So Dr. Jason Watson is a friend of mine and you're in very, very good hands with him.
Okay.
Very good hands, very smart fella. He's done my blood reports, my food allergy test reports. He's done it for a couple of clients of mine as well.
Okay.
He's a very, very good guy.
Yeah, and just I'm sure you saw that we're recording already. I prefer a little more informal, just kind of
for sure.
Just work into it. It keeps me more centered and just easy to instead of being I gotta do this thing and perform.
Gotta remember that.
So yeah, as far as the biohacking goes, though, what are you guys doing? You have a clinic in London, you said?
Yeah, it's called Be Superhuman. Just literally opened. We're going to be opening another one now in about 6 weeks' time, where we have hyperbaric oxygen, IV therapy, red light therapy, infrared sauna. We also have adjoining it, so we've got all the biohacks in there, and adjoining it, we also have you could call it a smoothie bar, but we do healthy shakes for people that are there, and we have healthy food and stuff like that. So we sell supplementation there, and we go through people's protocol of what are their deficiencies, what's holding them back, have they got brain fog, of they get any underlying issues that they need to work upon. That
are you doing blood testing then also with that?
Yeah, we can do blood testing as well. And I do that with my clients anyway. I do DNA testing, I do blood testing reports, so we can really home in and allow that person to transform in an easier way. Of course, we want our clients to work hard, but we want them to work efficiently at the same time. Even though I have put out kind of cookie cutter programs, video series, for free, because not everybody can afford me as a client.
Right.
Some people just want that extra customization to allow them to get the results a little bit quicker, because, as you see with transformation images or someone getting ready for a certain sport, results vary.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually lost 90 pounds last year.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations. Was it mainly through diet?
Yeah, intermittent fasting, so I only eat between 12 and 7.
Nice.
And keto combined.
Perfect.
And I was pretty strict on it for quite a while, and so dropped a lot of weight. Since then, I've actually put 20 pounds back on, so I'm just getting back on it now. So just started like 2 days ago getting back on it, and I know I got to lose more weight because obviously I've got more than I need. But and also then trying to add some exercise to it this time. And so that's actually one of the problems I have, is I feel like when I exercise and I'm on that strict of a diet, that I feel like the effects of my blood sugar, and I start getting shaky and stuff when I'm exercising. So it's a struggle. Yeah,
some people are more fat adaptive to ketones through a ketogenic diet, but some people are more adaptive to glycogen. So if you are more adapted to glycogen, then you're going to feel very lightheaded because you're just not assimilating the ketones as efficiently. And, who wants to exercise when they're lightheaded or feeling weak?
Right.
And everyone's different. Some people, like some power lifters, can work with that because they're not working with a lot of volume. But usually people, especially if you're training with more volume, more intensity, you're going to be utilizing glycogen, so you'll need carbohydrates.
Mm. What do you recommend for somebody that is, say for myself, if I'm looking to still drop another probably 70 pounds again this year, and, just optimizing kind of the fitness, like if you just looked at it and said, hey, what's the 2-second snapshot here? I know it's more complex than that, and I know that that's what, you have a lot of your career is coaching people and obviously teaching and podcasting about it. Supplements, everything. I mean, you're deep into this, but is there any shorter advice that you could get somebody started on a good path?
Yeah, sure. It's definitely consistency. It's not 5 days a week. It's definitely 7 days a week. Okay. Making sure that you're hydrated. A lot of people, if they're overweight or they feel like they're holding a lot of water, they generally don't drink enough. And I try to get pretty much everybody, dependent on the climate that they live in as well, drink at least a gallon of water a day. The other thing is going to bed early. Most people, especially in the US and especially in places like India, for instance, people tend to go to bed very, very late. Now, our ancestors used to go to bed after the campfire would go out, and that's got a restorative blue light and red light in it. These lights have artificial blue lights, which raise our cortisol levels by penetrating our retina through photosynthesis on our skin, telling us it's daylight. You need to be alert just in case you're being hunted. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not the case, and that light now is being extended much later at night through TV screens, phones, light bulbs. So our cortisol levels are high, which doesn't allow for melatonin to release to calm us, to put us to sleep, and doesn't allow us to efficiently then mobilize fatty acids and build muscle if we're working out towards those goals. So sleep, hydration, consistency, and then dependent on the diet. Of course, you can do intermittent fasting. That's absolutely fine. I do that with clients on non-training days a lot of the time. But quite frequently, it comes down to meal frequency as well, just to allow the blood sugar levels to have stability throughout the day and allow for insulin sensitivity, which puts you in a perfect environment to burn fat. If we create insulin resistance, then obviously we're not.
How do you create insulin resistance? Like, what's the stay away?
It could be stress. It could be stress. It's not eating the right meals, not eating frequently enough. And the more body fat that you hold, the more insulin resistant you're going to become as well. So,
Okay.
you want to make sure that you're managing your stress. I have my clients not to switch on their phone for a good hour after waking up and switch it off a good hour or two before bed as well, because that creates systemic stress as well, and a dopamine fix that creates that addiction to it. And slowing things down a little bit. A lot of people don't even rest or digest. They're in what's called a sympathetic state throughout the day, instead of being in a parasympathetic state, so they don't digest their food. When people are eating, they're usually in a conversation, they're scrolling, they're reading, they're watching, instead of actually taking time to eat that meal, be cognizant and acknowledge the meal that they're eating in order for them to adequately break it down. That's why a lot of people eat a meal and go, what else can I eat? Because they haven't acknowledged that they've eaten food.
Right.
And you've got to be in that state, as opposed to with your cortisol levels high, you need to keep them down.
Yeah. That's pretty well describes me. Business lunch is pretty much every day, and we're talking and running and gunning, this company is going to be probably hit about 50 million in business this year. And, so business is good, but it's like, that's all I've focused on. And that's why I've moved toward this biohacking side of things. 'Cause I was like, man, I really got to start taking care of myself. I have abused myself for way too long. And it has really messed me up in some ways, just like how I feel and like what I want to do with my life. And it's like, what's this success unless I'm healthy?
Yeah, exactly. That isn't success. Success is being healthy, being content. And because, you could have success, and I have this conversation with so many clients that run various businesses where they've prioritized something, but they left themselves last. Well, if you want to prioritize your business and your family and whatnot, you have to prioritize you, because you're going to be in a better position to give more of yourself then, not only now, but in your later years.
Yeah.
There's no success really if, you're going to drop dead next week.
Right.
There's no success. So you've got to prioritize you.
Yeah. Yeah, 52 years old, I'm like, okay, it's time for me to start turning back the clock, so how can I do that? So then I read this, I'm sure you probably read it, it was out of Tel Aviv University, I think, the hyperbaric oxygen therapy paper.
Yeah, it just came out last year.
And the immunosenescent cells, and I was like, okay, that's really interesting, like literal turning back the clock with your DNA. What did you think of that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's great. I loved it when that paper came out. I think it was last year, wasn't it? Because, the telomeres, and I don't know if you've heard the analogy before, where it's kind of like the telomeres, they fray. If you think about your shoelaces, if you cut off the plastic end, they'll fray and fray and fray. That's our telomeres.
Right.
And it shortens over time. And that is one of the indicators. There's glycans as well. So you can do a glycan age test. You can do a telomere test. And that's what I encourage my clients to do as well, to do a telomere test or a glycan age test to see what their biological age is. Usually, if a person is from an athletic background, it will be higher than their chronological age because of all the stress, maybe overtraining, pushing, and burning the candle at both ends. And obviously people that are unhealthy as well. So I had mine done in 2014, and my chronological age was actually younger than my biological by about 9 years. So I've worked every single year now. That's what that took me down the biohacking route. Well, it was that and mold toxicity in 2014, and I've done everything that I can, included hyperbaric oxygen chamber, obviously blocking artificial light a couple of hours before. Yeah, I've got the yellow during the day. A couple of hours before bed, I'll wear the red lens. Earthing myself, put the tinfoil hat on, ground myself.
The Faraday cage boxers, I saw something about that on one of your podcasts.
Yeah, I'm wearing them right now. I'm not going to show you.
Good.
And just supplementing with NMN, high levels of antioxidants such as glutathione and things like that. We won't go into the coffee enemas and whatnot, but I've been able to reduce my biological age now every year or every 6 months when I test it now. So my most recent biological age came back at 26 years old, but I'm actually 48 this year.
Right.
So, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to continue. I've had stem cells as well. I've gone overseas for stem cells. I'm going overseas again in about 6 weeks' time. So that'll have a profound effect as well, because I'm an active individual and I tear a lot of muscles too.
Yeah. So can you elaborate on the stem cell therapy a little bit? I mean, I know some about it, but how often are you having it, and how impactful do you think it has been on your life?
Very impactful. I raced motocross from a very young age, and then downhill mountain biking, surfing, snowboarding, you name it, I've torn it or broken it, participating in those things. So when I was getting ready for one of my Ironman events, I was dealing with a lot of knee issues back in 2017. So I'd done a lot of study on stem cells. So I went overseas, had stem cells in various acute areas where I knew that I'm going to continue breaking my body down. Mm-hmm. And after about 6 months, because I remember about 2 or 3 months in, I was like, God, I don't really feel that much difference. Have I just wasted my money and my time here? Mm-hmm. But about 6 months later, all the inflammation and problems that I had completely eradicated itself. Now that can last for a long time, maybe a lifetime, but it all depends how hard you abuse your body. So I continued to do Ironman. I train pretty hard, ultramarathon, mountain biking. I go quite hard in snowboarding. I tore my tricep last year. So I'm going back now in about 6 weeks' time. So it's been nearly 5 years in between those treatments.
Do you mind if I ask how much that costs?
Yeah, for this one that I'm going for now, it'll cost me about $23,000. But that is less than half of what I would pay in this country. And I get so much more stem cells. So I'm getting about 230 million stem cells. You're not going to get that here, and you're not going to get the source. So, there's different types of stem cells. You can get it from your own body fat tissue or your own bone marrow. You can get embryonic stem cells. You can get it from the placenta as well, the umbilical. So that's what I'm going for. And you can only get that from various countries overseas because the US does not allow that. They have the restrictions towards that, but it doesn't really work in this country as much as it does overseas.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's one of the things that I'm actually investigating doing. My girlfriend's family's in, they have some clinics around that previously did stem cell work. And so, I was exploring that.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Like I've had various clients do it. If my dad would listen to me, I'd get him to do it as well, so he could possibly avoid hip replacement.
Yeah. So so you said your biological age. You're 48 years old, and your biological age at your last test was 26. How long did it take you to rewind that clock? I mean, you started out 9 years in a deficit. Now you're at 22 years in a deficit as far as your biological age, right? What do you like? How long did it take you to make that progression and gain that extra, 13 years?
It was minimal changes. They did start to change within the first 6 months, but then it definitely created momentum towards the end because now I'm starting to add so many more biohacks to my routine. Of course, to begin with, I was focusing on my sleep because I was only sleeping 3 hours a night. I had mold toxicity. I had no idea. But I would use that sleep 3 hours a night to my advantage as an angry person. And I had the attitude like, I'll out-train you, I'll outwork you. I don't give a shit, and I probably wasn't a good person to be around. But I just hated going to bed at night because I knew I'd have a sleepless night. And I exhausted all possibilities of what it could be until I went to Oldsmar, Florida to visit with Dr. Spinaug at the Spinaug Clinic. And I stayed there for 6 weeks to go through a very harsh detox and chelating protocol because of the mold toxicity that I'd been diagnosed with, that I'd picked up when I was living in India. And through that, I started focusing on my sleep, then making sure that I'm eating grass-fed, wild-caught, humane raised, which I hadn't before. And as a bodybuilder, I was competing in bodybuilding for 10 years. I was eating 6 or 7 meals, but I didn't care where the sources of this food came from. I just got the cheapest food that I could get,
Right.
But I still thought I was healthy. And then I started looking into earthing, grounding, meditation. I just came back from a 10-day silent retreat. And then, blocking, the EMFs, because not everybody is electrosensitive. But I had someone called Brian Hoyer, who's one of the world's leading building biologists, come around the house to see where the dirty electricity and highest EMFs were. Lo and behold, it was in the bedroom, and I slept in a Faraday cage that night. And I measured my sleep on my Oura Ring, and my sleep was phenomenal. And then I said, can I do it again in this Faraday cage? And it was phenomenal again. Now, it's hard to come up with a placebo effect when you're sleeping. So I realized, okay, there's an electrosensitivity issue that I'm dealing with here. God, I must be a sensitive little petal, because my wife, she's fine. She sleeps fucking good,
Yeah.
And so I started doing that, and then PEMF, that active health and wellness. Yeah, exactly. So I've got a PMF mat at home. I'm always on that every single day. I've got an earthing mat at home because not every day I'm going to go outside and ground myself, especially in the Idaho weather here in the winters. And I do a sauna every single day to collect heavy metals out of my body. I had a lot of metal fillings in my mouth from the UK. We got terrible teeth over there, and found out that was collating into my system. And I do ice baths every single day to help me go from that sympathetic state to that parasympathetic state. So it kind of balances out a lot of emotional stability. Obviously, if you're more stressed, it can lead to heart disease. So I was just doing a plethora of things, hyperbaric oxygen, everything that, I started adding. And as I did so, and supplementing very high with various products. So there's a stack that I take called BioStack Labs that has your master antioxidants of glutathione along with liposomal vitamin C, then NMN, which is the precursor to NAD, which helps with anti-aging. Dr. David St. Clair's done a lot of research on this molecule and how it affects rodents with anti-aging. And, there's resveratrol, there's PQQ, there's astragalus that, just all helps with the detoxification of your body. And as I did so, with all of these things, we could be here for a long time.
Right.
I just found that, every time I measured my biological age, it was able to reverse itself. And then the people at Glycan Age were so impressed with my results, especially coming from an athletic background, because they test like professional soccer players and stuff and notice that their biological age is generally older, so they wanted...
Because they run so hard, yeah.
Yeah, they push it hard. And so they wanted a partner with me, which they have, to do pilot studies with my clients to see how I'm able to reverse the biological age, in quite a profound effect with active individuals.
Yeah. So when did you first become aware of your biological age as a factor that you were measuring?
2014.
And so you've really been working on this for about 8 years and have biologically gained 12 years over that time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
If not more, yeah, more.
Yeah, that's insane. I think I got to hire you to do it.
Well, I get a lot of hate online as well because
on this.
People think it's it's too much. It's a little bit paranoia. It's not. I enjoy it. I thrive off it. Especially when I may post on my stories. Hey, I'm doing a coffee enema again this week. They're like, you're off your head. Yeah. Sure, whatever. If I can actually see that my liver enzymes used to be pretty high.
Yeah.
I can see my liver enzymes coming down. When I do that, then you know what? I'm going to continue to do it. When I got into that, when I went to Dr. Spinaug's clinic in Oldsmar, he had me doing colonic hydrotherapy every single day for 6 weeks. I'd never done anything like that before. Mm-hmm. And then when I experienced the profound effects and saw not only myself, the people that were going in to his clinic, he only had a waiting list of about 8 months for people all around the world, and people would go in there literally with some form of dementia or some form of, like Alzheimer's, where they couldn't even tell the time on the wall. They're in a wheelchair. But then weeks later or a couple of months later, I see them walk out. Right. And they can tell the time. It was just unbelievable. My before and afters are usually, okay, now you're fat and thin, or now you're inactive and now you're active. His blew blew me apart. I couldn't believe it, what I was seeing.
I want to talk a little bit about like what drives you, but I'm kind of interested in that transition. There was a motocross accident where you had a back injury that got you into, wanting to build your body because you needed to rebuild your body. Coincidentally, I have a friend that Tyler Kilmer that broke his back in motocross, and he's in a wheelchair, but so I know that can be pretty extreme. What happened to that motocross accident, and then what really like got you? Where did your mind go at that point?
Yeah, so I had various accidents over the years, and it was just repetitive on my back because like 70% of the motocross race corners are right-hand corners. So after a while, it just I wasn't the smoothest of riders. It just had an effect on my spine where I've got this quite severe curvature of the spine, and Dr. Jason Watson can tell you about it because the x-ray that he did on me, you could see my pelvis, my spine is like left aligned by about an inch in my pelvis. And I dealt with a lot of issues. So I had to retire from motocross because I was
just wearing yourself down.
And I was pushing it pretty hard, If I couldn't push it hard, there was just no point on racing anymore. And so I went through some depression there for a while. And because my identity had been motocross and I was turned, I wanted that adrenaline. I was addicted to the adrenaline. I turned to drugs, turned to alcohol, and just anything to deal with the pain and the depression, I guess. And I went to a lot of specialists, and it wasn't until I went through physiotherapy using resistance training that I started to get alleviated of the pain. So now I'm getting alleviated of the depression. And that's what allowed me to think, okay, I need to figure this out. I need to study this a little bit more. And when I started to read more about it, I decided, I think I'd like to make a possible career out of this because I want a ticket out of Wales too. So I went and studied international health and sports therapy for several years and got those qualifications, which took me overseas. And then I started competing in bodybuilding because I'm a very goal-orientated person. I need something with a sense of urgency that's going to get the best out of me. So I thought, okay, I'll sign up for a bodybuilding show next year. And, that's what I worked towards. And I continued competing in natural bodybuilding shows because I had no idea back then there was tested and untested shows. And I went in my first show, I competed in an untested show. I had no idea. I was definitely the smallest person there, but I got ripped. So I got second place in that. But then I knew, okay, there's natural shows. And so I started competing in natural shows following then until I got second in the Natural World Championships. My last show, I decided to compete here because now I was living in Idaho and I competed in the Idaho state titles and I won that. But I decided to give up then because I'd always go into some sort of depression after a show. Didn't matter where I placed, whether it be first or second. I was just so focused on the end result as opposed to the journey. You hear that cliche, right. Focus on the journey. I didn't give a shit about the journey. I wanted that result. Yeah. So I'd always fall into an abyss of depression. So I decided I got to give this up because I never really liked the competing aspect of bodybuilding. I liked the discipline associated with it, because I know what I'm like, and I have to be stricter on myself than most people, so I come down hard.
Like what, this podcast is, monster mindset, and a lot of what we talk about is just like, what drives people and like things you can do to improve your mind, your business, and your life. What drives you? Like what makes you such an intense person? Have you always been that way, or is there some turning points in your life where that changed?
I don't think I've always considered myself as intense, and maybe that's it. Other people do. But I come from a very hard sort of background, growing up on a farm, and people may look at me and think you're a tough guy. I'm not a tough guy. I come from a family of tough guys, and I've seen it. I'm definitely not that person, but I probably get harder on myself as I see society gets a little bit softer. I don't like that, and I don't want it to have an effect on me. So that's why I always, I have the tagline of try to be harder to kill, and knowledge without mileage is bullshit. So I always try to put myself through these instances so I can better relate to my clients. And I guess that I'm just so rigid in this way because I know that motivation will fail me because some days I wake up feeling like shit.
Right.
Other times I'm tired, I'm emotionally charged, had an argument or whatever. So I just focus on discipline every day to keep that intensity because there's going to be days, as you know, in business, that there's times that you don't want to do things on the days that you don't want to do it, but you have to bloody do it anyway.
Yeah, sometimes there's months, right? I mean, that's just the way it is, and you just got to go do what you got to do.
Yeah. So I think by, focusing on the discipline that I have to do certain things every single day to condition my resolve then has a transcendence effect on my businesses because now I'm doing stuff that sometimes I don't want to do on days that I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's robotic.
Yeah. So, and, obviously, you're deep into biohacking, you're motivated, all these things, but you're also a pretty successful businessman. Can you tell me about your businesses?
Yeah, for sure. So, I've had a couple of failures though as well.
Yeah.
So
same here. And grew up on the farm also.
Yeah,
I think there's something about that growing up on the farm thing that makes people go, damn, I'm changing my life.
Yeah,
you change enough sprinkler pipes or siphon tubes or pull enough weeds, you're like, done, I'm out.
It's a tough life. It's a very, very tough life, especially with the weather in Wales as well and here in Idaho. So I had a gym in Australia. I was living in Australia for a little while. And then I decided I wanted to reach out to more people as opposed to the people that I was training in person. So I magazines were huge then. We're talking, like 20 odd years ago. And so I picked up a book, Merriam-Webster's book on journalistic writing, I think it was, taught myself how to write, like I failed at school, and started submitting content to magazines, which started to get published worldwide. And then I realized I want to do this full time, so I'm going to sell everything, go to the mecca of bodybuilding, Venice, California, and see if I can make a career out of this. So that's what I did. And within 6 months, I got a writer's and a photographer's contract with Weeder Publications. But I didn't like how my content was being submitted, not submitted as being published. It was edited, it's diluted. So I decided to start up my own magazine for a couple of years called Kaged Muscle. So I bought myself like an industrial size printer, put it in my 1-bedroom apartment in Marina Del Rey. And I remember that first issue being delivered to me is like it's been, a baby being delivered.
Yeah.
It was warm. I was like, this is real. And so I did that for a couple of years. Didn't really make any money out of it because I'm terrible at marketing. But I loved it. It was content that I felt that I was putting out that had authenticity. And that got recognized then because I was doing a little bit of freelance work as well for bodybuilding.com. This is going back 2005. And then in 2007, I got asked to come up and try out for the editor-in-chief position in 2007. So I got that job. That's what brought me here as the editor-in-chief of bodybuilding.com. And then through that, I was like, you know what? I want to start up a food company that's healthy and in these pots, and it's called Nutrition by Design. Had that for a couple of years. That failed. I kind of tanked. I didn't have enough people around me. I wasn't able to delegate. It was just myself and my business partner, Ruben. And I decided to take the funds that we had from that to start Kaged supplements with my 2 business partners. So we've got a supplement company here now that is based in the headquarters are in Huntington Beach, but I like it here too much. Yeah. And I spent some time in India as well. There's a celebrity Bollywood star that asked me if I'd transform him, so I agreed to go there for 12 weeks. He went through an amazing transformation. Then other Bollywood stars wanted a transformation, so I started flying in other trainers from the UK and from the US because the culture doesn't take orders from their own kind as well within a gym culture, so they would actually tell the personal trainers what to do instead of the other way around. So I had to start flying in clients and trainers, and I noticed there was a huge void with the infrastructure of the gyms. The personal trainers and the gym staff just did not look like they wanted to be there. So I started with my business partner Jack Chima. We started a gym franchise over there, which is running successfully there now in India as we speak. And then as we spoke about just before the podcast started, we just now started working with biohacking clinics in London. So my business partner, Jag, he's in London. So we just started that business as well.
Any interest in being in the biohacking business in Idaho?
Could be. I always leave these options open because people have said the same thing in regards to, like the gyms over here in the US. Well, obviously there's more competition here. I just felt that India needs it more than here. But if there's a need, then of course I don't mind facilitating it. But with a franchise, you really have to make sure that you have the right partners involved, because I've seen so many gyms close down, like Gold's Gym, for instance, and I know Ed Connors, who started Gold's Gym, and a lot have closed down because it's very difficult to get the right partners involved.
Yeah, leadership is everything.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one of the things that I live by in this business is, leadership development is the future of the business, and if you can't develop great leaders, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have. With my online training, we've got a course called PT Mastermind, where we help other personal trainers scale their business, because obviously with the vulnerability of the world the last couple of years, not everybody wants to be a personal trainer in a gym and they want to do more online. So we help people with that exact same code of leadership, to their clients, and obviously how to scale that business. But like you said, a lot of it comes from leadership, because you're not just a personal trainer, you're a psychologist, you're a life coach, you're a friend, you're confident to these people.
Yeah. What do you have right now that you're working on? What's driving you right now?
It's mostly my online training business, I'd say, because I really enjoy that. Yeah, I enjoy the supplement side of things. There's no doubt about it, because I feel that we're providing something that bridges the gap between health and performance. Usually there's a huge disconnect. So I feel that we're doing a very good job there. And again, the last couple of years, there was a couple of vulnerability moments there, because everybody was focusing on elderberry as opposed to a pre-workout.
Right.
But it's my online training. I'm really enjoying seeing people's transformations, and I interview them on my podcast, my clients, and just witnessing their stories, hearing their stories, because not everybody can relate to me. Very few people do, but they can relate to somebody there. And I just really enjoy listening to these people's stories and witnessing their transformations and inspiring other people. And that's what it's all about. There's a lot of coaches in this industry, and I feel that we're all working together towards the same cause. We're trying to fight, the laziness, the remote control, the couch. And collectively, I kind of enjoy seeing that surge.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I've listened to a number of your podcasts, and actually I read your book. Is it Body by Design?
Yeah, Body by Design. Wow. Yeah, that was 12 years ago.
Yeah, I got that when it first came out, actually. It's when I first, I was on bodybuilding.com, and I was trying to get more aware of my health because I knew I was neglecting it even clear back then. Continued to do so until last year severely, and still struggle with it up and down a little bit. But yeah, it was it was a good book, and so I've been a little bit of a fan since then. Not a fanboy type of a person, but definitely a fan. And so the coaching now is a lot of what's driving you. A lot of different varied interests. Any new business plans in the future for anything like that you're thinking about getting into?
No, I've learned to say no now because I was getting very much overwhelmed there. And when it starts having an effect, on your happiness, and because I was dealing with a sense of overwhelm there for a little while. Like, I hate being a bottleneck. I will never be the bottleneck.
Yeah.
So if I've got a deadline that something needs to get done next week, I'm going to get it done tomorrow, because I deal with a little bit of anxiety knowing that something else will jump on my plate tomorrow or the day following.
Sure.
So I noticed there was a lot of that happening, and I realized that I need to step back and just take my time and focus on the quality of my projects as opposed to the quantity. So that is it. The only other thing that I'm building at the moment now is something called like a Be Harder to Kill course, where it's helping people with resilience. It's creating some form of conditioning to their resolve, because it doesn't matter whether it be in business or whether it be the lifestyle or fitness or whatever. Having that mental fortitude is everything. It's not genetics. It's working the brain before the body and bringing them together as one. So it's the Be Harder to Kill. Like, I've got a seminar on it in Texas next month. and I'm going to create a brand and a course specifically around that.
Yeah. I think I've seen maybe a T-shirt or something.
Yeah, so Gasp Clothing, they just partnered with me to do a Be Harder to Kill T-shirt. Yeah, so that was the first thing that just kind of that launched from that, and I really feel there's a lot that can stem from it. You know, there's I've got the roots, now I need to branch it out a little.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of all over the place, but I'm just asking questions because they're interesting to me.
That's all right, shoot, man.
You got the pro in front of you. You got to ask the questions. My girlfriend recently started Microcurrent Neurofeedback, and you talked about Faraday cage and the boxers and all those kinds of things. How much have you delved into studying that stuff? And
not a lot. There's a friend of mine over in Florida. He's deeply rooted into it. He told me about a couple of books, but I never really picked up those books to really delve into it much.
Yeah, she just started. My chiropractor offers it, and I've gone to a chiropractor for a long time. I just think that alignment really affects my body and how I feel, and but they offer it there. I've never needed it. I don't feel like I have that kind of like anxiety, depression type of stuff that's going on, but she really does, and it's really helped her. And so I was just wondering if you gotten any deeper into it.
No, I haven't. That what has been most effective for me, in all honesty, is two things. When it comes to mental instability, I'd say, is high amounts of a quality. This is a problem because the CBD industry is the wild, wild west. You have no idea what you're getting. And a lot of people say, CBD doesn't work on me. It's probably the CBD, just wasn't anything in it. But, like 100 milligrams of CBD when there's any sort of anxiety, but starting a day every day with an ice bath has really, really helped me with mental stability as well. And it helps a lot of people. I am not the only one. There's a lot of people out there that tell me the exact same thing.
Are you doing that in like a contrast therapy, like you're going hot to cold?
Yeah. Not always, I don't always have time to jump in my sauna for 30 minutes, but I've got a sauna outside in my backyard, and then I have an ice bath next to it. So I always finish with the cold. A lot of people have an ice bath and go, okay, now I'm going to get in the sauna or in the warm. No, to create, if you want to mobilize fatty acids and help with, your parasympathetic state, or putting yourself in the neutral of that fight or flight response, then you finish with the cold. So I usually contrast, heat then cold.
Every day?
Every day. Yeah, sometimes I'll do the ice bath twice a day. I'll do 3 minutes in the morning. And if I have time, I'll do 1 minute in the evening. If I do any longer than 1 minute in the evening, it takes me too long to warm up and I can't sleep well.
Just curious, middle of August, you got like some kind of refrigeration system hooked up to this ice bath? What's going on there?
Yeah, I've got this thing called a Morozko Forge. It's like the Rolls Royce of ice baths. It's not cheap.
Okay.
And it's like cold on any temperature that I put it on 24/7. It's got like a pool filter, but it's also got an ozone filter. So I don't have to put any chemicals or anything to keep it clean. And my sauna is what's called a clear light sauna, and it's very low EMF because I do photobiomodulation. I do red light therapy every day. You got to make sure whenever you're doing a red light therapy or infrared that you are mitigating the damage from EMFs, because it can penetrate the EMFs deep within your cells. So you always want to make sure that you're mitigating that damage at the same time. So I'll do the red light therapy on a daily basis, unless it's summer here in Boise and I'm able to get restorative red light first thing in the morning. But I'll always do the sauna, then follow the ice bath. I've also got like what's called a halo therapy in that sauna that produces salt, like Himalayan salt, into the air that I breathe in.
Yeah. I went on your website, or maybe one of your podcasts talked about a little bit about that at some point.
Yeah.
And so I've done a little research on that, and actually contrast therapy is one of the things I was looking at doing for this space. I've actually got a space that we're working on leasing currently for this.
Phenomenal.
We're moving this business, the roofing business, into that space, but it's more than we need, and it's got 2 retail space entrances basically. So we're going to just block one of them out and turn it into our biohacking facility.
Great, that's awesome.
It's kind of the plan anyway, but I got a lot of research to do and a lot of work to do to get there. And like you, I've got too much interest in too many different places. So back to a little bit, rewinding again, you said you stopped competing because you went into a depression afterward. You You got things that you're going through life in, but that's a real transition to go from that competitive type of a personality to learning to be centered and content, and having success at the same time. How did you mentally make that shift from I need something to drive me, I need that dopamine or that adrenaline hit, to learning to be more content with your life?
I started working extremely hard because back then I'd say if I think too much, it makes me think too much. So I didn't want time to think. So that was at the time when I gave up. I started writing the book, Body by Design. Then I started filming a lot of video series for bodybuilding.com. Even though I was the editor-in-chief, I was the only one there in the office. Back then it was only like 30 odd of us in the office before all of a sudden it was like 500. So I was the only one that's competing on quite a high level. So Ryan DeLuca, the founder, was encouraging me to get in front of the camera as much as I was kind of reluctant towards it. I did, and started filming a lot of daily video trainers, they were called. So you could follow my video trainer and follow me as I would go from out of shape to shredded in like 12 weeks. And then I'd go the other way because I got an injury. I think I separated both my AC joints and tore my pec downhill mountain biking. So now I was in a pretty bad physical state. So I put myself through another video trainer, which is now you're going to see how much muscle I can put on in 12 weeks. And you're going to follow me every single day, go through my ups, my downs. A down could be me going through pneumonia, and people like that vulnerability. So it was just working hard. I was traveling a lot for bodybuilding.com, either working at the expos, being on the booths, covering the shows from an editorial photography standpoint with my team. So I just found being exceptionally busy and doing things that I really wanted to do, because I have a passion for this, really, really helped in that transition. And it took some years after, when I started going that biohacking route, to kind of slow things down a little bit. But I realized that my identity was just focused so much on weight training and quote unquote bodybuilding, even if it wasn't from a competitive aspect, that I needed to diversify myself, because I recognized, people retiring from bodybuilding, maybe it was out of their hands, maybe they're injured and they'd fall into a deep depression, they'd end up with no money. So I realized that I needed to diversify. So I started participating then in triathlon and Ironman triathlon and Spartan ultramarathon. So if one thing was held to the side, I could diversify and sidestep as opposed to take a step back. So that really helped me as well. And I found a lot of, like in school, they'd say that daydreaming was bad. That was a negative connotation. But I found that daydreaming then really helped me. So I'd go on like a 100-mile bike ride over the Oregon border, or do the Emmett and Horseshoe Bend loop on my push bike, and I was able to kind of switch off. And I found that as active meditation, which really helped ground me too.
Kris, what would you say to anybody that's like at a point in their life where they know that they need to change something, but they're not sure what? They need to change something about their life. They're striving for success, or they're striving for a body change. What do you need to do mentally to make that shift to change your life significantly?
I found the most profound way to make that change is to write everything down, as cliche as it sounds. So like I have a journal that I give to my clients that they have to fill out all the boxes and write down specifically what are the pros, what are the cons, what's holding them back. Is it their family? Is it their environment? Are they able to control it? What can't they control? Where is the satisfaction that they're finding that is short-term that's leading to long-term pain? And I find when they're able to dissect that, they're now able to find out what their why is. And if they have that why, with accountability within a community, then they're much more likely to succeed. And, not try to do everything at once, because people say, I don't have time to go to the gym 5 days a week. I don't have time to eat 6 meals a day. Well, you don't go to the gym 5 days a week then. Just do some exercise at home 3 times a week for 30 minutes. You always start off with something small and create momentum, because the chances are if you've got bad habits, you need to have new neural pathways created in your brain in order to have new habits. So you need to work one neural pathway, then another, and add to that. Have some form of neuroplasticity happening.
Yeah. I I haven't ever journaled, but it's something that I've considered doing for a long time. But I do understand the power of like dissecting, a problem and understanding it and understanding the contributing factors as a way of moving away from something that's really dragging you down.
Yeah.
And I found that to be very powerful. I was really at a bottom point in my life about 8 years ago, divorced, lost everything, dead ass broke. Like I had nothing living in my buddy's basement. And now I've got a company that's going to do somewhere between $30 and $50 million in business this year.
And a badass car parked outside.
Yeah, right. and a good life. I mean, I love my life. My life is good. One more thing to work on more than anything else is my body. And, and that's one of the reasons I'm really excited to have you here because, you've made a career and a life out of this biohacking and body space that is super admirable. I mean, it's incredible what you've done. So
well, I'm gonna throw something in there that may help you with making notes and journaling. And I'm saying this because it's fresh in my mind. I've only had one a couple of days myself. Have you heard of the Remarkable 2?
I have.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal. So even though you're writing on a screen, your notes, it feels like paper. It sounds, if you have the audio on, it sounds like you're writing on paper, and you can write your notes, and then you can transform it into text to then email it. You can sync it on its own cloud onto your phone, onto your computer. You can use it for presentations. It's phenomenal. So I carry that everywhere now.
Okay.
So that might be something to look into.
Yeah, I carry around an iPad all the time, and so I use the note feature on that. But I've seen the commercials or ads for Remarkable, but
yeah, what I like about this
one
is that like with an iPad or whatever, you can have alerts, you can get distracted because now you have email on it, you have all these things.
Right.
I like this because it doesn't create distraction. It's focused. That's why I read a lot. I read, for education, but it trains my brain to be focused because we do live in a life now that we're very easily distracted.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that I really like about the Remarkable. I don't have any affiliation with that company, but I just think it's awesome.
Well, they should sponsor you now.
Yeah, I'll get a discount code next time.
What books are you reading right now, Kris?
I'm reading a James Patterson book, so I try to read something like a novel in the evening, something that's relaxing. I'm reading, at the moment, there's a person called Wes Watson. He's a very intense character. He was locked up in prison for like 10 years. Then he came out, and he's only been out 4 years now. Extremely successful human being, extremely successful. So that is called Unbreakable, I think that book is called. And Wes Watson, check that out. And I'm reading again the Slow Down Diet. So Slow Down Diet is based on what we spoke about earlier on making sure that you're present when you're eating your meals. There's a lot of science that is behind that. And let me see, what else is there? EMF'd by Dr. Joe McCullough.
Okay. Electromagnetic field book, obviously.
Yeah, I've read a few of those. I've read Zapped by Anne-Louise Gittleman, but this is like the latest one with the inclusion of 5G.
Okay. Favorite one or two books of all time?
Favorite one or two books of all time? I really liked, this is when I was working at bodybuilder.com, I really enjoyed Good to Great. I really enjoyed that, and I'm definitely more of I'm more of a recluse, even though I am on social media. I'm definitely more of a recluse in person, So reading the book How to Win Friends and Influence People was a classic book. Yeah.
The other one was Og Mandino. Is that who did the Good to Great?
Yeah. I forget. Yeah, Dan, was it?
I don't remember for sure.
I remember the books. I don't always remember the authors.
Yeah. I gotcha. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. Anything that you'd like to say to my audience at all about how, final parting words?
No, I appreciate you all listening. But remember, I just want you to think to yourselves as you get a little bit older, are you going to regret spending more time on social media and ignoring the people that are close to you? Or are you going to regret not being present and spending more time investing in your own health? Because we invest in houses, we invest in cars, we invest in a lot of things, materialistic possession, and obviously our children's school and whatever, but I think a lot of people need to take a look at themselves and invest in their own health, because I say this because I've seen it so many times when people have a health scare, they end up in hospital, or, you know, I'm dealing with a client at the moment who's lost her other half. It's too late. It's too late then. And all the things that you could have done and you know you should have done, you didn't, comes back and bites you in the ass one way or the other. You know, so you make the decision now that will have a positive effect on you in 20 years' time from now.
Yeah, you know, and I think that for me that applies a lot because, you know, the decisions I've made for a long time aren't the really best decisions for me, you know, a lot of times emotionally, but definitely not physically. And it's time for that to change. And I've been changing it and making improvements on it, but, you know, one step forward, 1% better every day if you can, right?
Exactly. Just don't leave it till next time. It's now time. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you tuning into the Monster Mindset podcast. Kris Gethin, been a great guest. And next time, join us again.
Thank you. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, they want to reach out to me, it's probably best to just contact me on Instagram. And at Instagram, handle is Kris Gethin, KrisGethin.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss out on becoming a monster.